now that we're all caught up or mostly caught up, and I was talking with Neil again, I think it's due and respect to bring up Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
And the homage to all the 80s, not only just 80s horror, but 80s movies in general.
Yes.
And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I legitimately think Stranger Things is the best TV show to come out on any network in the past 5 years.
All right, relax. I'll say top 5. I'm not gonna give it the crown, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what? Yeah. So what do you have against it?
Like, I don't have nothing against it, but I'm just trying to put on my thinking hat, and I can see a couple more shows.
Yeah.
That I put a top of.
Was Breaking Bad more than 5 years ago?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, like, in the past 5 years, like, I'm not saying all time, granted, Westworld's amazing. Westworld came out in the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's right up there as a contender. But all the other great shows have had longer runs than 5 years. Game of Thrones, if you want to go back and do Sopranos, you want to do Breaking Bad, Walking Dead. Yeah. All of those have longer runs. I'm just saying in the more recent time. I think that's the best new show. And mind you, it's on its second season, too. Yeah. It's a baby. It's got a long way to go.
And it's got a huge following. The Nielsen people were trying, Netflix is notoriously really secret about their views. They don't let people know.
No, not even the people on the show.
Not even the people on the show. No one knows
well, what is this?
Yeah, Netflix. If you do a show with Netflix, because they're private, privately owned, blah, 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 they can do whatever they want. Even if you have a show on Netflix, they don't have to tell you how many people are watching. That is all information that is
correct. Like the Duffer Brothers who created Stranger Things do not know the analytics behind the show. So like if I'm a stand-up comedian and I do a stand-up special for Netflix,
so they have no idea.
They won't tell me how many people watched it, when they watched it, the demographics, all that information is kept in-house from Netflix.
Yeah.
So it's actually very smart from a production standpoint because then they have the power of negotiation. But because of that, they also are able to spend a lot of money too. Because the thing about Netflix versus a normal network is they are subscription based. So like HBO or any other subscription based network, they don't have to adhere to advertisers. So they're focused on quality of content of their brand. Like when you say, oh, I saw this show on HBO, a standard of it's going to be this quality. Or I saw a show on Netflix, it's going to be this quality. Whereas you're like, oh, I saw a show on, this cable network, it could be hit or miss, you don't know. And a lot of the times the producers and showrunners have to answer to the network and the advertisers, hence why Dave Chappelle's show kind of failed is 100% because the advertisers didn't want him dropping the N-bomb that much on the show. They said it's bad for our brands when we're advertising. Even though the success of the show is amazing, they came in and they tried to micromanage and he was just like, fuck you guys, and peaced out.
Shit like that.
Right, exactly, which I think is an advantage because it doesn't sacrifice the quality of the content. That's my point.
Yeah, well, if you want just now what you were saying about, it's like a brand, it's a standard when you say like HBO and whatnot. If you ask me, I don't feel that way with Netflix. When I see a program has a Netflix stamp on it, it doesn't make me think that it's automatically good. Actually, if you ask me, I think a lot of their shows suck.
Yeah.
Just to be honest.
Originals, the Netflix originals.
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think Narcos. Narcos is good. I've watched Stranger Things is good. I guess Orange is the New Black. But those 3 shows, these motherfuckers are putting out 20 shows a week, 20 new shows a week.
Well, they take creative chances.
You know what I mean? So at the same time, maybe the fact that they're not giving out these views is also to maybe save a little bit of their tail too. Because some of these shows look absolutely horrible. I look on their IMDb reviews and it's like, oh, what the fuck is this?
I agree. There's some that fail. There's some that really fail big time. I was not a fan of Disjointed, even though I really wanted to be. Right. And Kathy Bates, the comedy about the marijuana dispensary that Kathy Bates runs. It's a sitcom comedy that has a laugh track. And when you're watching on Netflix, you're like, why am I watching a show that has a laugh track? Yeah. I know you guys didn't do this in front of a live studio audience. So it's almost cheesy. Yeah. But something like Ozark with Jason Bateman, really, really good. really good quality drama. I mean, for me, it got a little slow in the middle of the season, but at the end of the day, if you compare it to the rest of the quality of material out there, whether it's network or non-network, that's up there, and that makes a rating. So
to me, the best shows are on like Showtime and HBO, and then AMC and FX gets in there too. Like I don't even like. Be honest with you, I don't really much watch the standard Fox unless it's like for sports. And whatnot. But
the Mick is good. There's a couple. There's here and there. Like, Family Guy got its start on Fox.
No. Actually, I will go back to that for that shit. Don't get me wrong with that. But what I was going to come back to Netflix is that you ever watch a TV show? All right, you're watching it for an hour, right? You know the world of that episode. You know as far as they're going to be going in this episode. Okay, right? Right. If some character on the show got a ticket and they're gonna fucking go to Dubai next week, the way you're watching the episode, you're not gonna see that part of the show going to Dubai. You know what I mean?
That's true.
They're in this world of an episode, right? That's how I think the Netflix seasons are when you watch them on streaming. When they release a season, it's so clear to me that they shot all these episodes in a row. It feels as though like I'm watching a really, really, really long episode. So like I can see as far as this can go. As far as this can go, you know what I mean? Like everything, like the same scenes are coming up over and over again. You know what I mean? It's just like a really long television show.
I see what you mean. Like on Mindhunters, actually, that's really interesting because I knew they weren't going to do Charles Manson this season. Like just because the way the pace and the way it was set up, and like they're not going to get to it. But like at the end of the season, they were like, you heard of Charles Manson, and it's like that next season they're going to do it. So yeah, I see what you mean. It was like the whole season was an episode.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a whole lot of their shows do that. Stranger Things, from what I've seen, have not done that. Narcos, they haven't done that. But the majority of these other shows, they have done that. And that's what kind of like detracts me from them. It's so clear to me that I'm watching a show that's been given to me in a full season. Like, it makes me look as if there's no way on earth if they would put this on ABC that the episode would end like this. You get what I'm saying? Like,
because then they would have reviews and reactions from their current audience because they're still writing as the season is going, and they're still in production as they're going. Whereas you're right, this gives the ability from the direction and the production standpoint to just create the story and then dump it and say, here it is.
That's better though.
Another thing is like vice principals.
And another thing is also like this. Whenever I watch a show, sometimes I watch like a new episode of a program that I like, Game of Thrones. I love Better Call Saul. I think that's another great show that's been released recently. Right? Yeah. And I like to do sometimes. I like to look online, some fan theories, what people thought about the show. Shows on Netflix, I can't really do that because I realize that everyone has seen it the entire season already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I can't really look up a theory and see what's going on because this theory has obviously been solved.
Yeah.
But okay, I think it's a good thing that they get to do it all at once because then it's not affected by the audience. Like these shows that come out each week, then it's like they can gauge the crowd and then change it, and it's all like, oh, what do people think? You know what I mean? Yeah. You get your whole creative thing out at once, and you do it without all this fan input, and you're not
right. But it's funny. I think it's interesting what Neil is saying. I think what you're saying basically is like when we were just all watching TV in the 90s, no one had the spoiler for the next episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's like no one fucking knew where this was going to go. And so maybe it did kind of hold up the conversation. The whole water cooler talk about the episode or whatever last night is no more. I mean,
exactly.
it's a whole...
like just now, like before the show, me and Brian, we've seen the show, but he's on it before further than I am. So now
I'm on a different episode.
So now we can't talk
about it.
I want to say something.
And the thing about it is, like, when we talk about it, we can't even talk about a particular episode like I just wanted to just now. It's got to be like about the entire shit in its entirety. Matter of fact, by the time I watch the whole shit in its entirety, there'll be nothing to talk about. But this shit I just want to talk about because I've already seen it. It's like...
Well, there's a couple points.
So those are just the downfalls about watching the shows. But at the same time, when the shows are as good as Stranger Things, as Narcos, it's great to just be able to just go through them for sure.
Is so good,
but at the same time, I can just see this getting, for some reason, a show like this gets so much fanfare for me, even more than it already is. This show is dropping every week. Like, I don't understand why doesn't Netflix just incorporate that? They've already set the standard. They can't go back now. But they just incorporated what you said, like, they've already did the whole season. You know what I mean? They're not taking any more fan input and whatnot. But then they still just drop the episodes every Monday and whatnot. I don't know.
They could try it. I think they should do it as a sample. It's like Netflix is a tech company, and tech companies like do tests.
Always change.
And they just say, hey, let's try this and see how it works.
This one of the recent episodes just ended. I was like, fuck, this is like a fucking jaw drop. I can imagine. I couldn't take waiting a week for the next episode to go on. You know what I mean? Like,
that makes it better.
It's so hype, but it's like you want that anticipation sometimes.
No, not for me.
I'm kind of right there with Dev on this. I don't. Go ahead.
Well, all right. So the unique thing that Stranger Things did for me as a TV show that no other TV show has ever done is my addicted to the binge watching. I don't binge watch ever. Even when I start another series that I see on Netflix, I'll watch an episode here or two there. When the first season came out, I remember the day it came out, or I'm sorry, not the day it came out, but I watched it maybe like a month later. But as soon as I started watching it, I couldn't put it down. And when this new season came out, I remember it was like midnight it dropped, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch like an episode or two and stay up till 2 a.m. and then just turn it off and pass out. But at 2 a.m, my mind is racing and I can't put it down. And I did not go to sleep until I finished the season. And that still made it just as enjoyable. It was like an extra long movie that now I can go back and watch it again. And that's what I did like 2 weeks ago. And I still found just as much enjoyment. This is when I wrote the synopsis, trying to break it down of like things that, made a mental note to me. And one of the things we can talk about here is the first 2 episodes, because everyone's seen those, right?
Yeah.
All right. So in those first 2 episodes, I think are probably the most significant in setting up the series, even though they're maybe a little bit slow paced, obviously, but they have the most homage to 80s callbacks.
Right.
So I made a list of all the 80s callbacks, for the whole series. And then in episode 2 there is the house party that they all go to, and then you have a bunch of different throwbacks from just people's costumes. So first I'm going to go through the list of shots, like in the first episode when Will is going out of the arcade to the door, and that door is opening and there's the light and everything behind that is shot for shot a callback to Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. 100%. And they admit that. Duffer Brothers say that. So just on this list we have Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Ghostbusters, Goonies, St. Elmo's Fire, Mad Max, Gremlins, Scarface, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Mist, The Exorcist, The Warriors, Halloween, and Poltergeist. And that's just from frame-ups. That's not even direct references, where like Ghostbusters is a clear reference because the boys are dressed in those costumes for Halloween. So I think, from the Halloween party, you have Madonna acting like, like a virgin is playing and on the radio. And Alex Owens from Flashdance is in there. Rocky from Rocky is in there. And these are costumes that all the kids at the party are dressed like. So that is one of the appeals of the show, is it's not only like, it's cross-generational. Sure. And I think it's something that like our generations and ones that came before love it because it has that 80s feel with this whole new modern flair on it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at the same time, the young kids love it because it's something original. And it is something that's like, oh, wait, what is this? And, we talked about this a little bit before, but I'm going to go into the production difference between season 1 and season 2. Obviously, season 1, they, think about what they had. They didn't have very little CGI. They wrote to frame. They wrote to framework. They had these constraints. Okay, we have this town, we have this set, we have this budget. Right. We're going to use a physical puppet for the monster instead of like a CGI. Whereas in season 2, you come right off the bat and it is way bigger scale. It's the whole town. And I was listening to Duffer Brothers talk about this, and they said for season 1 they had one intern that was there part-time, not an intern, but one employee that was there part-time to do all the CGI post-production stuff. On season 2, they had 5 people there full-time.
Nice.
So that just tells you like, okay, once the success of the show happened, Netflix was like, here's a bag of money.
There's a whole lot of money.
Go do whatever you have to do to make it awesome. Yeah. So I think it's the combination. It's like serendipitous when the moments fall into place of good storytellers and good actors and actresses on this, because I really do believe, you said, maybe not the acting's that great. I think really the vision for this show comes from the Duffer Brothers, first and foremost, which are amazing, great, brilliant, but also the actors communicating that vision. I've been in this business a long time, and I started in musical theater, and the kids who are in this cast are some of the best child actors I've ever seen in my life.
I'm kind of worried about them.
They might be getting a little ahead of themselves, but Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas, he's been on Broadway before. So some of these kids, like, so is Gayton, so who plays Dusty.
But dude, can you imagine being one of these kids and going back to school and being like, "Yo, what up, bitches?" Like,
they don't go, but they haven't been in that life.
4 million followers. That's
well, that one kid just did it. Like that kid's not going to school.
Well, I haven't seen the new It. Well,
the new It's amazing. Who's better than the first one?
Which one from Stranger Things is in it?
Mike.
Yeah.
Who's Mike?
One of the main kids.
The one who likes 11?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in it.
Yeah, he's in it.
But one of the veteran actors of this show, two of them, Winona Ryder and David Harbour.
Which another, Winona Ryder in itself, an 80s callback.
So is Sean Astin.
Yeah, like Sean
Astin from The Goonies right there. Brought it straight back in. And he talks about, I listened to an interview with Sean Astin about talking about bringing that Goonies aspect to Bob when he drops down in tunnels. But anyways, David Harbour, I think, is so perfect for this part because he is a trained theater actor and a television actor. Like he's been around the block for years, and he brings this this Hopper cop aspect that is like the leader of the show. So I think that dynamic plays on set, like on camera, as well as it does off. And I think it translates, and that's why I think that chemistry of those people working together makes it so unique. I don't know if the show would succeed without some of these actors. Is my point.
Yeah. He's gonna be the new Hellboy, by the way.
Yeah, he is. I saw a picture.
The guy who plays the Hopper on Stranger Things.
Oh, really?
He's a dude. He's perfect. New Hellboy.
That's pretty good.
And they showed his makeup and everything with the final, like what they decided on. It's sick, man. He looks awesome now. Hellboy's gonna have like a whole new, darker. It's gonna be good.
Well, I was wondering, did you guys ever pick up on that one scene? I think it's in episode 2, where that fucking the brother of that Max girl. He's doing like the keg stand, and that's like an entire one shot of him like doing the keg stand. And they follow him, and he goes into the house, and everyone's like partying. Then he goes there, he's like pulling like toilet paper off the fucking roof. Then he goes down, and then everyone goes over to the other kid, Harrington, I guess his last name. And I thought you were the king around here, and then he just stares down Harrington. Harrington's all like. And then the camera still goes, that entire scene is all in one shot, and the girl gets the drinks. That's how she wants to drink, and this aren't we supposed to be stupid teenagers? That whole scene is all like in one shot.
That's Duffer Brothers, man.
That's a pretty cool look.
Fox lost Duffer Brothers. The Duffer Brothers were doing Wayward Pines, and Fox put them in like here's your like bullshit spot on Fox. Let's see how this show does, and then didn't really, just kind of left it on the branch to die off. And the Duffer Brothers got the Stranger Things deal with Netflix in the middle of doing Wayward Pines. And so Fox came back and they were like, well, we actually really like Wayward Pines. We would like to put you in a new spot. And the Duffer Brothers were like, sorry, dude, like we're out. Like we got a Netflix thing. We're going to go do this Stranger Thing. Now they're huge.
Well, and as they should be, man, they deserve it because I think they did some work on Lost. Is how they got their start.
Right.
Ooh, Duffer Brothers?
Yeah. They started mentoring under J.J. Abrams. That's where they got a lot of
Which
their
makes so much sense if you think about their style.
Right. I mean, with the exception, there's no lens flares and Stranger Things. Thank God.
But it's kind of like I was talking to Neil earlier about like there are these a bunch of shows and programs that are coming out. Like I mentioned, South Park, the new South Park that just came out, and then Stranger Things and It, and these things that are coming out where I think it's speaking to us as how we used to be as kids. You know what I mean? It's these kids who are going out, the latchkey kids that we used to be, who go outside and go fucking play in the woods and go get lost in a cave and go destroy your school. And so, it's like that's how we were as kids. I can't really speak for nowadays kids. I don't know what's going on out there, but I mean,
too many iPhones.
That's what I think is different. I do think it's different. Yeah, they're inside
playing video games.
That's what I think so too.
I know some.
Yeah. And so I think this is for our generation. I was born in '88. But like Stranger Things, I can just see how perfectly 80s they got this thing. It's so on the money of what it was like to be a kid in the 80s.
Can I be the official shade thrower again?
Yeah, throw that shade. Throw that shade.
That's my role here. So I liked it. I really liked it, and I agree. It's very good. One of the best in 5 years. But I took me 2 weeks to watch it. I watched other things in between.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why it didn't. And then another thing, it's not really a spoiler, but should I?
No, don't. Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
I don't want to say anything, but there's this one thing. I'm just like, what is, like, this doesn't mean anything. The map, and it's like exactly in the house.
Well, that's
like,
why
is this house an exact replica of the town, and why is this map like do this?
I don't know anything about
that doesn't make any
yet.
sense to me.
Well, they wanted to just
stop.
They wanted to mess up the house the same way they did in season 1 with the lights.
Yeah, okay.
That's kind of, I think, the callback to the previous season. Okay. They found something that worked in Winona's house with the characters.
I'm gonna finish it.
And I think that's
it's not a spoiler. It just happens.
Okay.
And then in the whole season, I don't know how to say this without being a spoiler.
Oh, stop it!
No. Just in general, I'm like this. It's like the same arc and the same like as season 1. I'm like, they didn't. It's the same thing.
That's okay,
it
though.
is.
It
and
is.
it takes place over
like
what 2 or 3 days, like the same as the first season.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Ghostbusters.
But you don't step it up and not like every other show. It gets it to the next level, or you they don't push any boundaries. They don't get creative.
Is bigger.
The scale, it's a lot nicer. The production value, a lot of everything's better, but it's the same story arc.
I like that.
Honestly,
I do. I also like movies that have sequels that are like copy and paste the first script and just put in some, like Airplane. Airplane 2 is just Airplane without Leslie Nielsen and some like other, I don't know. You know what I mean? I dig it, but I see where you're coming from on that. Maybe they probably could come up with some new, maybe, I don't know, Stranger Thing goes to Tokyo or something.
Well, speaking on like sequels, this is a random comment, and I would like to copyright this as well. Is this copyright?
Copyright,
right? I don't know what the fuck Hangover fucked up with all their sequels at, right? I don't know because they did that copy and paste shit too, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
But I don't know why they never did this, but they should have did one of their like sequels, like Memento. It should have been like a comedy version of Memento.
Oh shit, that would have been.
That's how it should have been, like, because that's how they started anyway. They always started with it being at the end, then we start in the middle. No, the movie just should have started at the end and scene by scene being the end. Then let's figure out, because that way we're the ones that are kind of drunk. You know what I mean? We're the ones that can't remember anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like so.
So I want to close us out on this before we get into our guest segment here. But here's a fun fact that I found out this past week about another beloved AZ's movie, Beetlejuice. Right?
Yeah.
So Beetlejuice got approved for a sequel, and it was literally, I'm not joking, Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii.
Oh my god! I wish that had happened. Can we make that happen?
Yeah, it was so.
Right
what
now.
happened was Michael Keaton got cast in Batman, so he couldn't do it because of the timing for the filming. But the premise was
just so happened.
The premise was that the people who came in to own the house originally that Beetlejuice was trying to scare out, they bought a luxury hotel on Hawaii that was on sacred Hawaiian ground that was haunted, and then they contact Beetlejuice to come and just save the town, but instead he creates a tidal wave that destroys the entire island and washes away the spirits and everything. And that was a legit script that got approved. And it got
dude. You better believe it, dude.
Oh man, Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii.
Bruh.
Right?
I want Beetlejuice Christmas. You know, I want Beetlejuice Valentine's Day.
All right. Well,
Beetlejuice on Valentine's Day.
So thank you guys for that breakdown. I think that was an awesome segment, man.
Yes.
We got into it deep on a lot of 80s stuff, a lot of horror stuff.
I like Brian's shade throwing.
Yeah.
We need Brian's shade throwing corner.